We celebrate Pentecost Sunday as being a wonderful day, 50 days after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. But it's not a fulfillment or completion of what has happened in the world. The Spirit is ongoing. It's something that is continually being given to us in each and everything that we do. We started out our Mass being reminded of our baptism by the sprinkling of water. We are reminded that we have died with Christ, and now we are living with Him, and we are proclaiming Him in each and everything that we do. This is what happened to the disciples on the day of Pentecost. They were filled with the Holy Spirit, and they went out speaking in their own language, and yet everybody heard them in theirs. The gift of tongues. And also the Spirit, in its understanding, had given the gift of understanding to others who heard them. Those who interpreted the words interpreted that understanding of the Spirit. The Holy Spirit is what gives us the grace to be able to turn the water and wine into the body and blood of Christ. The Spirit has given us the understanding of what it is that we do each and every Sunday. The Spirit has given us the knowledge to know Christ. It has given us the understanding of the Gospels. And yet at the same time, we sometimes dismiss it. We dismiss it because of familiarity. The one thing that is going to kill us in everything that we do is familiarity. We become so familiar with it that we don't understand it, or we don't want to understand it. This is what happens in most of our lives. We become familiar. We become complacent. We stop listening to the Spirit. We think sometimes that we have enough. I am filled to the top of my brim with what the Spirit tells me. I don't want any more. That's why some people say, Father, don't challenge me. Don't ask me to learn more about my faith. I already know everything you're going to say to me. I do not need you anymore. Well, that's where we're wrong, isn't it? That's where the Holy Spirit has said to the guys, listen here guys, Jesus only gave you a tiny piece of what He had known or wanted you to know. Now I'm going to give you the rest of it. And it's going to change your lives. That's why when we have confirmation, we express the understanding of the 7 gifts. Knowledge, understanding, healing, the spirit of fear of the Lord, and all the other gifts that come with it. Fortitude. When we received our confirmation, the bishop came up before the bishop, and I was young anyway. He gave you a slap across the face as well while he was doing it. But he also put this smelly oil, as we used to think it was. Of course, I was only a child at the time. And he said, be sealed with the gift of the Holy Spirit. And then he gave me a little tap, just in case I was asleep while he was doing it. The idea is that the realization of that seal is not a completion of one's life and love. It is only the beginning of something that is greater. It is the next journey, the next part of ourselves and our being to be with Christ. This is why our bishop and our bishop before, Bishop Joe, Bishop Corrado, had instituted the sacraments in the order of which they should be. Baptism, confirmation, and then communion. We always did baptism, communion, confirmation. But in fact, the true meaning of our sacraments is the opposite. It's baptism, confirmation, and communion. Because once we get confirmed, we get the knowledge of Christ, and therefore we understand fully what we're receiving. The gift of God's knowledge is given to us. So when we come before the Eucharist, we come before that understanding of God. Then we know what we are receiving. We have been confirmed in it. The idea of knowledge of God. Master Eckhart would tell us that in order to understand the Holy Spirit, we must first understand knowledge itself. That it actually gives us a sense of who we are. It's kind of like a sense of belief in our lives. Each and every one of us takes that sense of belief and places it in our minds. But if we do not have any understanding of it, then it becomes nothing. We cannot understand. It's only when we begin to understand and learn about what we're to understand does it make meaning and sense in our lives. In a good way, I suppose you could look at our education system. In our schools, that's what happens when you go to school. You go into school at kindergarten, you're not taught philosophy at kindergarten. Or you're not taught history. You're taught the rudiments, or the foundations of what it is to begin that knowledge, that step in where you're going. You're taught to read and to write and to add 2 and 2. And if you're like a good politician, you will add 2 and 2 and get 22. Definitely if you're one who is involved in economics. Because I think that's the type of arithmetic that they have had. They didn't fulfill the knowledge of where they were supposed to go. In the same way as our faith, by the way, when we start at kindergarten as children, we are told about God making the world, small little insignificant things in many ways, but they mean something, they're profound something. They give us a sense of where we are in this world. As we get older, of course, we come to the knowledge of who God is. This is done, of course, by through prayer, through spirituality, through understanding. Some of the gifts of the Holy Spirit are even given to us even before confirmation. They're given to us at baptism. That's why I started with the sprinkling rite today. To remind us of that gift, to remind us of that love, to remind us that we are belonged to God, that we have opened ourselves up to that understanding of God. And now we come on and we get confirmed. It used to be called confirmation, was a militant understanding of God's love. We were soldiers for God. I remember the bishop talking about it when I was little. You're a soldier of Christ. You're going to go out there and proclaim His word. You are the one who is going to do that. And I'm sitting in the pew looking up at him and I'm saying, you must be joking. Why? Because I hadn't a clue. I knew as much about my faith, and I won't say it because I know people say, Father has got it in again, and I'm not going to do that. So you understand what I mean. I did not have a fullness of faith. Even though I had communion, and even though I had confirmation, I still didn't have the fullness. It took me a long time later to figure that out. But through the gifts of the Holy Spirit then, I'm able to figure that out. That's what happens to us. We grow, we develop, we expand. It's not about just a simple following the church. It's a whole lot more. It's a complete and utter lifestyle that we are doing. That Catholicism is not something that is just a book of rules. My God, do we have so many rules? But still, it's not just about the book of rules that we have. Or it's not just about the Catechism, which is a wonderful book, by the way. But it's not the only thing within it. That's why the Spirit gives us that understanding. It allows us to be strong in our faith. How many of us has invited our friends to come to Mass recently? How many of us have went out and stood up for our faith recently? How many of us have done the things that God and the disciples did when they were filled with the Holy Spirit recently? I would say very few. Why? Because we have become complacent. We have left the idea of the Holy Spirit behind us. It is like what T.S. Eliot said. Perhaps we are living and partly living. Great statement. We are living, but only partially. We are not fulfilling our spiritual natures. Why? Maybe we should look to the gifts of the Holy Spirit. The gifts of knowledge. We're not opening ourselves up to knowledge. We are closing ourselves down because we say we know enough. I don't need to go any further. Or maybe we're afraid to open ourselves up because we're living a life that is not good in the understanding of faith. Because if I listen to the words of God and I listen to what the Spirit is telling me, I'm going to have to do that. My whole life has to change. That's the fullness of the Spirit. That's the fullness of what happened to the disciples. The disciples went in on the day of Pentecost, and they were just ordinary individuals who knew Jesus Christ and came out proclaiming His word because they had changed in an instant. They were changed completely. It's like what the bishop tells us when I got ordained. He places his hands over my head and he says, "May the Holy Spirit come down upon you. May you proclaim with excellence what Christ has given you." Not a very big statement, but it's a huge and profound meaning. It means that I have been ontologically changed in a way. That's why even if I left the priesthood tomorrow morning, I would still be called Father Peter McGrath. I didn't realize that, of course, until after he had done that. And so today I ask you to pray. I ask you to pray for the Holy Spirit, for that gift, for that strength, for that knowledge, for that lack of fear in many ways. To be able to go out and proclaim God's gospel with gusto, with zealousness, and with kindness. Because that's what we're asked to do. May the Lord bless you on this great day. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.